Hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me well. So I'm Stefano Aki. I'm the head of department of the European Innovation Council, working for the European Commission, which is an initiative of course, of the European Union. And I will be today with Diana, who works in my team, presenting what is the European Innovation Council and what are the opportunities for you to apply and benefit from. So first, what is the EIC? So as it was already said, it's a budget. We have a budget of 10 billion euros over the period 21-27. It's the most ambitious innovation program that the European Union has never put together. And we are there to identify, develop, and scale up breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovations in Europe. Of this 10 billion, 7 billion will go to an accelerator, which is only available for startups and SMEs. And they would be able to apply for equity and grants approximately in the same amount. So about 3.5 million should be going into equity and 3.5 million in grants in order to start the scale-up process of deep tech companies in Europe. And then we have about 3 billion for earlier stage activities, which are more advanced research for developing new ideas for breakthrough technologies. And to transition them to the possibility of having a company. So the EIC setup, we are helped by an EIC board, Hermann Hauser being the vice chair of this board. And in a previous incarnation of the board, he was also leading the preparatory phase of the European Innovation Council. And he's also a member of the board of the EIC Fund. And the EIC board is there to steer the EIC strategy, the implementation, and the wider innovation policy. So we rely very much on its advice to guide a large number of strategy and implementation issues that we have when we put together the EIC, and going forward about how the funding, for example, is being targeted. I work for the EIC agency called ISMEA, which is there to implement the day-to-day running of the program. And we have hired a number of program managers to do that with us. These program managers are drawn from the market or university environment, and they are cutting-edge experts in the different field in which they operate, and they are there to tell us exactly where the action is and to make sure that the funding follows the action, and that we are not, I would say, out of step with the developments that are happening in the world of technology around the world. And then finally, but not least, of course, we have the EIC Fund, which is a dedicated investment fund for startups that has been set up and is now operating with the support of the European Investment Bank. Next, please. So very briefly, we have 3 funding instruments. So as I said, Pathfinder, which is concentrating on early stage research on breakthrough technology, so low TRLs. And here we are open to consortium with at least 3 independent legal entities. We are delivering grants of 3 to 4 million. Then we put together a new instrument that has been operating since last year, which is called Transition. And here it's an instrument aiming at the technology maturation from the proof of concept to validation of the technology. And we hope that with the support of grants to up to 2.5 million, those initiatives and projects will mature enough in order to then get it to the next stage. So it's an attempt to close the first valley of death, as we call it, from the lab to the startup phase. And then finally, the accelerator, which of course I already briefly presented. So this is for startup and SMEs to develop and scale up breakthrough innovation. This is, of course, a mono-beneficiary instrument, and we are providing grants up to 2.5 million and investment up to 15 million. All these activities are supported by business acceleration services that are there to plug the gaps in the teams that we are helping scale up and develop their technologies and innovations in Europe. And this suite of business acceleration services are quite developed. In particular, when it comes to investor outreach, we will go more into the detail of that in a minute. And then I hand over to Diana, who will briefly present the EIC Accelerator for a few minutes.
Wonderful, thank you. So I will put it again in the full screen mode. So yes, as Stefan was mentioning, we have the EIC Accelerator, which is basically the main the flagship program of the European Commission to support and scale up the companies, the startups that would need support and significant support over a long period of time, that are developing breakthrough innovation, and they need patient capital in the form of grants and in the form of the investment. And I will speak a bit later about exactly what this means. And they would also in general, this kind of breakthrough innovation are based on scientific discoveries or on technological breakthrough. Let me just hide this. Okay, so now it should be fine. So speaking about the EIC Accelerator, we do have several options for the startups. As mentioned by Stefan, first of all, it is a mono-beneficiary program, so only companies, startups themselves can apply. So it is not a usual collaborative research program of the European Commission, and we like to say that we invest in companies, we do not invest in projects. There are several options for the innovative startups, and one of them, and the most popular actually, is actually the blended finance, where the companies can request in the same application grant of 2.5 million euro, which covers the technological development of the product or of the service that the company are planning to bring to the market, and then they can ask up to 15 million euros, and actually exceptionally as of this year they can go even higher than 15 million euros for some very strategic cases and very exceptional cases. In order to support the commercialization and scaling up activities which cannot be covered by the grant itself. It is important to mention, we'll cover this more in detail, that this the investment component, which is direct investment in the companies, it has to be matched by the private investors, and Stefan will explain also later why we are requesting this. Companies have the possibility to apply also for the grant first. This is a possibility especially for the earlier stage companies that need time in order to maturate their innovation, to work longer on the technological development of their project. They do not have they are not yet investment ready, so they are not yet ready to go and speak to the investor, and so there is this option to apply in the single application already for the investment component, and this will become available at a later stage depending on achieving a certain milestone, which is put in the proposal, and then it is later negotiated if the company is basically selected. There is the option of the grant only in case the company has already the interest of the private investors, but they would need the grant money for the technological development, and for us it would be interesting to be involved as well in the companies. But in this case, they would have to demonstrate that they have the strong commitment from private investors, actually to have private investors really lined up for this. Just very briefly, the evaluation process is basically a three-step evaluation process, even though it shows 4, but it's actually more or less a three-step. The first one, which is open continuously, it's the short application where the startups can go on our platform, and later in the slides you will see a link to the platform and the code that you can basically scan. And you can apply via this platform with slides of 10 pages and a deck of 10 pages and a video pitch of 3 minutes. It's a competitive process, so don't take it for granted nevertheless. Then the second step is the full proposal, where you will have to prepare the full proposal. In this step, you can be assisted by coaches from our side. You have this right to choose from our database a coach that can assist you. Doesn't mean write the application for you, but guide you on this process. And this is for free, and they will have at the disposal free days. And then the last step is that you are invited to pitch in front of jury members that are basically are made of investors. They are made of people with innovation background, people from industry. We try to have a diverse profile of panel members in order to have different views on a certain company. In this slide, well, you can see more or less what I have mentioned previously, but with a bit more data. So basically, for the first step, which is open continuously, you should receive basically the feedback within a maximum 4 weeks. It happens usually earlier. The second step, the full application, there are certain deadlines for this. We call them cutoff, and we are waiting now for the work program for 2023, where this will be these cutoffs will be laid off together with the conditions, and then for the third step, as I was mentioning to you, you have to pitch in front of the jury members, and they will have the opportunity to ask questions. Here you have also basically the scenarios that can happen. Well, it's a go in case where we'll start the preparation of the grant component. Investment component in case you have requested for this investment component, and this is being done by the EIC fund together with the investment advisor of that is EIB, and you have already access to the business acceleration services. You can get seal of excellence in case that the proposal has been considered of very high quality, but unfortunately we have budgetary constraints and it cannot be funded, you can get this seal of excellence, and this gives you opportunities from other funders, from national scheme. The last and the less desired option is that you are rejected, but in this case there is the possibility to reapply. What do you assess? What do we assess? Well, you see here a lot of information, but basically what we assess is very similar to what the investor assess, but of course in a much more structured process, because we are managing public money, and we also receive a significant number of applications. We receive more than 8,000 applications, the program is extremely competitive. So we do have to follow a very structured process, but the questions that are being asked to the companies are very similar to the market, in the sense of degree of novelty, the need for the innovation, the market, the patents, the intellectual property rights, which are very important since we are funding deep tech innovation, the scaling up potential, because we want to fund really companies with the potential of becoming at least European leaders. Well, we would like to have companies that will become global leaders, the competitor analysis, the implementation, which is sometimes overlooked by companies, but is actually very, very important. And of course, very important, it's about the team, the motivation of the team, of how the skills are existing or how they are planning to hire these skills. This is in a nutshell what I have basically presented to you so far. As I was mentioning, it's a very competitive process. It's based on really market criteria. The companies are being selected by and are being viewed by a lot of experts with very different expertise, which makes them also attractive for the investors. And I invite the investors in the audience to really look at our pipeline of companies, and we'll speak later about the business acceleration services. And now I would like to give the floor back to Stefan to present more in depth the EIC fund. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Diana, for presenting the EIC accelerator in general with the different options of funding that you can choose from. then I will now concentrate and focus on what the EIC fund has to offer. So we are talking about the equity component that is offered when you choose equity only or blended finance. So the EIC fund is a VC fund that has been established by the European Commission in June 2020 and is now currently managed by an external professional fund manager that the Commission has chosen. Right now, the Commission is the only shareholder of the fund, and the EIB is the investment advisor. The EIB has put together a very competent team of about 25 investment officers that now are processing the due diligence and organizing the signing of the deals with the different companies. The EIC fund invests ticket size at first between 0.5 and 15 million euros. This, of course, varies considerably from company to the company and the application process that is being done. So far, the fund has approved 173 deals, of which about 140 were during the pilot phase. So we have approved about 35 deals in the current Horizon Europe program. And of these 173 deals, this has led to 97 investment agreements signed, which could be for about half of them direct equity taken into the company. And for another half of them, they were convertible loans that were given to the company to provide them runway while they are preparing for the investment round. So now very briefly on the investment process, this is covered by a document called the EIC investment guidelines that you can find online. And it's one of the documents that is available in the context of a call. So if you want to apply to one of the cutoffs that Diana has mentioned, you can find this document to have more detailed information about what would be the investment process and what you can expect if you would like to apply as a company. So the EIB first perform an initial assessment upon your selection after evaluation. And of course, the colleagues in my team are providing that list to the colleagues of the EIB. And then the EIB will then categorize the different companies into different buckets. The idea here is to have, I would say, a predictable path forward from this bucket categorization. Then the EIB, once the initial assessment has been completed, will do a due diligence. This one may be performed by co-investors, of course, for reasons of efficiency. If there is a round information, the EIB will then follow that round that is initiated by the main investor in that round, and therefore will request to use the same due diligence that has been realized. And we will at the same time in parallel realize so-called KYC compliance checks. It's very important for the European Union. Obviously, we want to avoid investing in companies that have sanctioned individuals, for example, in their capital. Then once this process is over, the investment proposal is being drafted by the EIB team, proposing financing terms. Of course, this is being discussed with the beneficiary, the investee company, and of course with co-investors if there is around information. And then the EIC fund will decide. Today, this is being approved by the investment committee of the fund manager, the external fund manager that is managing the fund. And may, of course, the fund manager may, of course, put a number of conditions or even reject the operation if it finds grounds in the investment guidelines for doing so. And then once this decision, let's hope positive, has been taken, then the EIB, in conjunction with a number of law firms, of course, we are present potentially in about 40 geographies. So we have legal teams that are operating in all these geographies for us. So then the EIB will contact those legal firms and prepare the preparatory work and the legal documentation for signature. Then once signature is being completed, the disbursement is relatively rapid, a couple of days later. And then the portfolio monitoring and management is done by the fund with a key role being played, of course, by the EIB team in ensuring the monitoring of the different companies. Now, if we go on these famous buckets that we call also investment scenarios, bucket 0 means that it's a no-go. So there are substantial negative issues that are being discovered. So these are the grounds on which potentially the investment could be rejected. This is very rarely used. The experience so far has shown that we had only a number of cases where companies refused to submit requested information, and we had to terminate the possibility for equity. But in most of the cases, this type of situations are handled in bilateral contact with the company, and we always try to find a common ground in order to not terminate the grant and the equity possibility there as best as it is possibly to negotiate it. Then bucket one concerns companies that are okay from the point of view of these substantial negative issues, but that they are deemed as not being immediately ready for investment, and they remain therefore very high risk from the point of view of potential co-investors. There, the EIB will perform full due diligence. We will deploy a number of tools that Diana will explain later to try to find co-investors in conjunction with the companies. But it is also possible that the company is deemed too early stage for staying in the pipeline of the fund at this stage. It may be then converted back to grant first, which is another possibility under the accelerator, as you know. And that means that if in the implementation of the grant milestones are met, then the company may request to be then considered for an equity investment later on. So it's a kind of a waiting room situation during which we will of course deploy a number of tools, in particular when it comes to investor outreach in order to help the company find co-investors. And then the bucket two, this is of course where we hope to be in the most cases, which is where potential investors are showing an immediate interest in co-investing, not necessarily leading to immediate round, though this situation is happening more and more with the EIC accelerator. But the idea here is that even if we need to wait a little bit, there are sufficient interest, sufficient traction from potential investor that we can move to an investment round. And then of course the discussion, if you can move back, Diana, the discussion will be rounded around with the potential qualified investor. What we mean by qualified investor here is that we are looking for investors that are present in the space, in the sector in which the company is operating, have of course a good reputation on the market, and also are private. The idea here is that the DNA of the EIC fund is that we systematically co-invest with private investor. At least 50% of the round in which we participate needs to come from private money. The reason for it is that we believe that we need that validation from the market in order to support our company even better in the longer term. Going alone in the companies will do detriment to those companies and their prospects in the future development of the scale-up process. So this is extremely important that we only invest on that basis. We have also developed a number of partners which have been developing there with us. Here you have on the summary of the companies that we have already approved, financed, signed, and you have their logos here. So again, like I said, it's 173 companies where this positive decision has been made, 97 companies that we have financed, and so far 384 million euros paid out to these companies. So we are very firmly at the level of the fund in business. There is about 10 to 15 companies being considered every week for investment. And of course, we encourage you, if you believe that we can make a difference for you, for your company, for the prospects of the scale-up process, to come to us and look at the application process. Now I turn again back to Diana for the different data that we have available, and also for the activities we do on investor outreach, which are of course a major feature of our activities here in the EIC. Diana, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So just very briefly, this is the entire portfolio data. So that's why you see a difference between this data and the previous data, having in view that a number of companies have requested grant only, or they are grant first companies. And you see also the magnitude of the investment that and the grant proposed, and also the equity requested, which is extremely significant. You also see a bit the spread of the portfolio, and as you can see, I mean, we have companies in all the sectors, with of course predominantly health, which is not surprising because they have significant investment needs. But we do have also companies in energy and technology, and here, I mean, we see more and more quantum and semiconductor companies. We have companies in ICT. We have companies under the so-called sustainability, which is a big climate tech, which is a big priority for the European Commission, and goes from energy, from agriculture, but also from earth and related environment, transport, mobility, food, etc. And you see also a bit of spread of the companies per countries, having in view that the companies eligible are the ones that are from an EU member state or from associated countries to now Horizon Europe, and big important associated countries are, for example, Israel and Norway. So that's why you see Israel as well. If just to give some ideas of the type of the companies a bit more in depth, you see some of the companies that have been supported by the EIC in the future. Selling, which was actually the first company that reached the first 1 billion valuation some time already ago, and it's a Swedish company in farm, quite famous in the vertical farming, and has grown significantly. And very more recent company is Cyper, which is one of the companies from Horizon Europe, and it is very much focused on the technological sovereignty. I mean, especially in the part of related to microprocessor, etc. Well, just a snapshot about the Austria within the EIC accelerator, and we are glad to have with us one of the companies that we have supported, Avilu, and Marcus will share his experience a bit later. There are not a lot of companies, but we do hope with participation to this type of event to actually increase the application of relevant companies for our program. And we do see a change in the type of companies that are applying. So, for example, we have Alpine Quantum Technologies that are recent companies, Celeris or Avi, that are coming from different backgrounds, and we do see also an increase in terms of number of applications. In terms of business acceleration services, as Stefan was mentioning to you, well, they are very important. They are open to all free instruments, and they give access to advice to business partners and to innovation and ecosystem peers. And the purpose of these business acceleration services is really to support the companies to find the relevant in case of the co-investment services, to find the relevant investors. They might have already a number of investors in view, but what we do is really to support them in building starting from building their investor material or updating their investor material, and really connecting them with the right investors, either direct connections or via e-pitches. We do have other e-pitches or investor days. We do have also other type of services, connecting them with relevant corporates, with relevant procurers, are also very important for the company growth, to have clients, to participate to trade fairs, and also we have connecting them with partners, giving them access to innovation ecosystem and peers. The purpose of this action is in fact to provide the services, having in view that we have such a diversified portfolio. It's difficult to provide target services to all the companies. So we do have this type of actions where we try to have relevant accelerators and innovators that could provide as well services to our companies. We have the EIC community, which is a great place, partially open for the outside world to see what we are doing, but also for the companies to connect between them, but also with investors, with corporates. Of course, the EIC newsletter, to which I really encourage you to subscribe, because it's we don't spam. We send one per month, and it gives you relevant information about what is happening about the program. And last but not least, very important, we do have the EIC co-investment platform. This is open for the companies in the portfolio, so companies that have been selected already, and also for the investors. As mentioned, we have a very interesting pipeline of companies, and I would invite the investors that are present in the audience to get in contact with us via LinkedIn or via the organizers who have our contact details, and we are very happy to talk to them and to onboard them on the platform. Last but not least, these are just brief information about the companies, the startups, how they would like to apply. Everything is basically online. You have here the website, and also the code that you can scan, and then everything happens on the EIC platform, where you can do the first application. Well, you can start today, basically. For the second step, the long application, we are waiting for the work program for 2023 to be published soon. You have support for applicants, and here you have also further guidelines, because I saw a question in the chat about a number of agencies that are offering help. Well, the best place to actually start looking for and to talk to are really the national contact points, which are present in every country, and they can really support you from this point of view. You have all these links, and with this, I have finished my presentation, and I would like to, I will stop sharing the screen and give the floor to Marcus. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Diana. Thank you very much, Stefan. It's my real big honor and pleasure to have been invited by the EIC to tell you a little bit about our experience with the EIC, which is now already almost 2.5 years old. But let me first introduce myself. My name is Marcus Berger. I'm obviously from Austria. I am the CEO and the shareholder of Avilo. Avilo is an Austrian deep tech company which is focused on battery data analytics, and we are analyzing batteries in whatever kind of applications, however, with a strong focus on electromobility or EVs. We can assess the quality, the so-called state of health of batteries, of cars, used cars, but also in airplanes, vessels, stationary applications, or whatever the battery application may look like. That's what we are doing. Yeah, and how did we get where we are? So the whole idea started 5 years ago with my brother and a good friend buying a used electric car, nobody being able to tell the quality of the battery. And as you probably all know from mobiles or from notebooks, there is a huge risk batteries degrade over time, and nobody could tell them. So we really started to think about, can we develop something like this? Because that will be needed once electromobility will break through. Because who buys a new car if it isn't able to sell the used car then afterwards? So we really in the garage of our parents on the weekends, in the evenings, and we discovered, well, that could be possible. And then we received the first funding from the Austrian Research and Promotion Agency, so the FFG, in 2018, and then another funding in 2019. And then end of 2019, we were, say, 4 employees, and we said, well, we need to scale up now. We need to get quicker, and we started the application process for the EIC grant and blended finance to prepare for the May cutoff in 2020, which was the Green Deal large cutoff. And to be fair, I personally spent almost 3 months, almost exclusively on that application. I wrote it, I researched, we took some external help also, some consultant whom we paid, who has experience with these kind of things, and we really worked hard on it. As I said, 3 months myself at least. We applied for grant and for 1.5 million equity. I think this was the first cutoff where equity applications were possible. We were heavily supported by the FFG, the Austrian Research and Promotion Agency, specifically by Christian Frey. So please use this, guys. And we applied, and by surprise, to be fair, we got selected. Yeah, we almost didn't expect it, and that was 64 companies in Europe out of, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 applicants. So that was really, for us, that was the breakthrough. And we got $1 million down payment on our bank account. And for us as a young company, that was an enormous amount of money. And we scaled up from 4 to 20 employees within 9 months. And with this funding, with this grant, we could really, that was the changing point for our company. I'm not sure we would still exist without that grant. I don't know, but the chances are probably not that huge, because the product that we develop has proven to be far more complex technically than we initially thought. I mean, as always, and we needed really than 20 employees to continue the development, and just the EU grant made that possible. And it helped us also gaining another 1.5 years or so before, or almost 2 years to be fair, before we had to go sign our first capital increase and invite the first investors to join us. But going back now to, let's say, summer 2020, we received the grant, and it took the EIC, to be fair, another year or so until we got green light also for the equity, but that was probably because it was the beginning of the whole process. I'm quite sure it's now much faster. Anyway, we didn't need it at that time, so it was no problem. We received the term sheet from the EIC. I have to admit, Stefan and us had the one or other discussions around the term sheet. It was not like a lot of topics that we could negotiate, to be fair. However, we agreed, and we used then that term sheet to talk to private investors. And I also have to say that helped. So there were a lot of private investors who were, let's say, convinced by the fact that the EIC will co-invest. And for us, at least, and for the discussions we had, this term sheet helped attracting even more investors, or making the ones who are interested even more interested. And in late autumn last year, we kind of had the round together. We found an Austrian lead investor who took 50%, as Stefan just explained, or Diana. The EIC covered the other 50%. And in May this year, we finally closed the investment round. And since May 2022, the EIC is a shareholder in Abilo together with the lead investor, and of course, allowing us, the founders, to still control the vast majority of the company. From a process point of view, I have to say I was positively surprised. I mean, all of us make experience from time to time with kind of public or semi-public organizations, and typically, at least in Austria, those organizations do not have the best reputation. However, the EIC was really the total opposite. So I have to say the EIC kind of behaved like a private investor. So the investment managers were very straight, I would say, they reacted immediately. They understood the issues that you have if you have two investors, putting that round together, agreeing on an investment agreement, on a shareholder agreement, and the whole process was extremely professional, I have to say. I also have to say that the EIC kind of stepped back a little bit and followed the core decisions that the lead investor made. So on valuations, on let's say the most of the topics we needed to negotiate with the lead investor, informed the EIC, and the EIC kind of approved. The EIC had a handful of topics, let's say, that were very important to them. They made that clear. The lead investor accepted it, and the whole contract negotiations were very smooth. The EIC, by the way, they hired an Austrian law office, a very renowned law office, and we mainly communicated with this law office, which made the whole thing even easier. Also from a language point of view, the EIC investment manager trusted the lawyers, and the lawyers, I assume, did a good job. So I have to say the whole contract negotiations, as I said, was smooth and easy. We closed it, and we have now experienced 6 months of co-ownership with the EIC. And also this co-ownership went very smooth. We established an advisory board where the EIC has a seat. We have now the second advisory board meeting end of November, and we are exchanging information from time to time. But the EIC is again not more and not less demanding than our lead investor is, acting absolutely, I would say, privately, put it that way, so like a private investor would do. And yeah, so far we had not the slightest issue or problem or discussions which would go beyond any other discussions that you usually would have with an investor. So to sum it up, 2.5 years of experience with the EIC leaves us with a very good feeling. We are grateful for the EIC to support our company. When you put in now, meanwhile, almost 4 million euros grant and equity, which is probably half the amount that we raised so far. You made our company, you made possible what we achieved in the last 4 to 5 years. We are now almost 30 employees. We are on the market. We have products. We are in half of Europe. We are innovation leader in Europe, at least. We believe globally. Big companies knock on our doors and ask if they can work with us. So everything went extremely well so far. So I can just recommend to anybody out there listening to me now who probably in the same situation like we've been 2 or 3 years ago to take the efforts and apply. And if you apply, then do it properly. Don't do it, let's say, as a side job. Take your time. It takes hundreds and hundreds of hours to put a decent application together. It is a full-time job for, I would say, 2 to 3 months, depending on where you are. But I think it's worth it, and we did it. We succeeded. We are happy and grateful, and can recommend you to do the same. And if any of you has questions, like 3 weeks ago, an Austrian company called us and said, "Oh, you have a pitch in 2 weeks. Can you advise us? How did you prepare? What did you?" And we are more than happy to share our experience. So I was asked to talk 10 minutes. I think the time is over. Thank you very much for your attention, for listening, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus.
Do
we still have time for
2 hours short break? Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
Have time for a few questions from the audience, or
we're already into the break, but take 1 or 2 questions very briefly.
Very briefly, a question is that startup needs to have all the necessary IPR in order to have full FTO. No, sorry, no, this is not what I meant. You need to have an idea in terms of IPR, of course, but you do not need to have all the patents or all the or to have done the FTO. So this is one of the questions, and there are two questions that are referring to about the agencies that are offering help, and if we have recommendations, and that from this point of view, I don't know, Stefan, if you would like to mention something. We did mention about going first to national contact points as really the first point of contact that can help you for free. And yeah, I think Marcus as well mentioned the need of having a very close eyes, even if you work with private consultant.
One more minute, or did we go through all of it?
Something else to add, Stefan?
No, I think I mean, what Marcus has said was, I mean, music to my ears. I can only be extremely happy that we managed to do this for you, for your company, Marcus. I mean, we had the benefit, the pleasure of discussing throughout this process several occasions, and of course, it's always extremely gratifying for us to see that we managed to do exactly what we were made out to do, which is to help companies, startups like yours, and to scale up much more quickly than you would otherwise, and be there for you when you really needed it. So I can only subscribe to what he said. I mean, he basically laid out a process which I think has been exemplary in many ways in order for him to apply successfully, and he showed that actually you can do it also from the first application. Many of the successful laureate graduates of the EIC, of course, do that and repeat application second time, the third time before they actually make it. They always improve in the meantime. So we have also that possibility of improvement on your application. But as he said, you know, the contact points that you have locally, nationally, are of course extremely instrumental in helping you understand how the system works and how you can have a successful application at the end of the day. They can help you with a lot of the different questions, and from there, as you can see, the process is relatively straightforward. It may you may encounter a few snags here and there, requests for information, delays here and there, but we are always trying to adapt to what the company needs. I mean, if you need a fast reaction from us, we'll be committing resources in order to be able to react fast. And if you need, of course, a bit more time, we'll adjust to your timeline. So this is, of course, what is the flexibility of the EIC, because at the end of the day, since we are not in, we are of course acting as a private VC and follow market practice, but at the same time we're not in it only for the money. I mean, of course, we are in there to help those companies in the first place. That's why we've been created, and of course we want to make good investments, obviously. But at the same time, we are definitely there to be listening to your needs and try to adapt as much as possible to the needs that you express to us.
Great. Thank you for all the insights. Maybe just a quick final question in case it is disclosed. How much equity did Avilo receive from EIC?
1.5 million.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for all your insights and also for answering all the questions from our audience. Thank you and goodbye.